I didn't lose my job. I didn't get fired. I got promoted. People clapped. My boss shook my hand. My wife cried when I told her. It looked like success, but 3 months later, I realized something terrifying. They didn't promote me to move me up. They promoted me to move me out. And the worst part, I thanked them for it. Emma opened the door. She still had a kitchen towel in her hand. Something was boiling on the stove. I could smell garlic and butter in the air. She looked straight into my eyes and asked quietly, "Did it happen?" I nodded. She smiled, and then her eyes filled with tears, happy tears. She wrapped her arms around me and whispered, "I knew you'd do it. I always knew." In that moment, I felt lighter, like 3 years of pressure had finally paid off. I was the hero. That morning, I had been promoted. The board had applauded. The CEO shook my hand. My name flashed on a giant screen. Everything looked perfect, except for one thing. Inside, I felt nothing. Not pride, not excitement, just a strange, hollow silence, like someone had quietly removed a chair from inside my chest. I didn't know it then, but that letter I brought home wasn't a promotion. It was a replacement. 3 years earlier, Daniel and I sat in the same row of cubicles, same level, same salary, same complaints. The only difference? Daniel was ambitious. I was loyal. When the boss yelled, Daniel strategized. I stayed late and fixed things. He built relationships. I built systems. One day he leaned back in his chair and said, "Ryan, you run this place, but this place will never lift you." I laughed. "I just want stability." Stability. It sounds safe, doesn't it? Then the restructuring came. New executives, new pressure, new targets. Daniel became visible. I became reliable. He presented ideas. I solved emergencies nobody knew about. And then one afternoon, the CEO called me into his office. Glass walls, city skyline, expensive silence. "Ryan," he said, "we need someone dependable in a higher capacity." Dependable. I had heard that word before. "Daniel is moving into strategy. We need you to step up." Step up. I was proud. Finally, my work had been seen. What I didn't know was that Daniel wasn't moving up. He was moving around me. The first month felt normal. New title, slightly better pay, more meetings. But slowly, things shifted. Files reached me last. Decisions were already made. I was given execution, not vision. One afternoon in the boardroom, Daniel stood confidently in front of investors. He clicked to the next slide, and on the screen, my department had a new name. Operational Support Unit. Support, not leadership, not partnership. Support. Under the table, my hands tightened, but I stayed quiet because I was loyal. At home, Emma was planning our future. We can finally clear the mortgage. We can take that vacation. You'll finally get the respect you deserve. Respect. At the office, I got a new cabin, but my authority had shrunk. Daniel had dinners with investors. I handled HR issues and vendor disputes. One day he put his hand on my shoulder and said, "You're the backbone, Ryan." Backbone. Backbones don't get seen. They just carry weight. Then came the meeting. Urgent, closed door, CEO, legal, Daniel, me. A contract was slid across the table. "Your role will evolve under the new structure." Evolve. I scanned the document. My title was still there. The salary slightly higher, but the reporting line had changed. I would now report to Daniel. Daniel, the man who once sat beside me, the man I defended, the man I funded emotionally with my time and loyalty. I looked at him. He couldn't meet my eyes. "It's just business," he said. "Just business." That was the moment it hit me. I hadn't been elevated. I had been repositioned. Stability hadn't protected me. It had made me static. And static things get replaced. That night, Emma asked, "Are you okay?" I said, "It's just different than I expected." She didn't understand, and I didn't explain. Because betrayal hurts, but embarrassment hurts more. Months later, Daniel was on a magazine cover. Visionary leader. I read the article. He mentioned the early struggles, the long nights, the risk. He never mentioned me, not once. I was still in that building, still under that logo. But I was no longer part of the story. I wasn't even a footnote. One evening, I stayed late. The office was empty. City lights reflected against the glass walls. I stared at my own reflection. And for the first time, I asked myself, when did I stop being the hero of my own story? When did I become fuel for someone else's vision? Why didn't I read the documents carefully? Why did I assume respect? I didn't quit that night. I didn't explode. I planned quietly. I calculated my savings, rebuilt connections, made calls. This time, I wasn't loyal. I was strategic. 3 months later, I resigned. Daniel looked shocked. "You're making a mistake," he said. Maybe I was, but this time, it would be my mistake, not someone else's design. 2 years later, I run a small consultancy. No glass skyscraper, no magazine covers, but every contract carries my name. Every risk is mine. Every win is mine. In the mornings now, when I sit with my coffee, I don't feel hollow. Sometimes I feel scared, but not empty. There's a difference. Fear means you're alive. Hollowness means you've disappeared. If you're listening to this and you think you're safe because you're stable, ask yourself something. Are you growing, or are you just helping someone else grow? Loyalty is beautiful, but loyalty without ownership is slow surrender. I thought I had been promoted. In reality, I had been replaced. And the most expensive thing I lost wasn't position, it was identity. Today I'm smaller, but I'm mine. And sometimes, that's the biggest victory of all. And here's the part no one prepares you for. The silence after the applause. Because when they promoted me, everyone clapped. When they handed me the new title, everyone smiled. When they shook my hand, cameras flashed. But no one noticed something strange. My office was bigger. My salary was higher. My responsibilities were heavier. But my voice was smaller. Decisions I used to make suddenly required approval. Meetings I used to lead, I was now invited to. And the projects I built from scratch were reassigned for strategic alignment. I remember the first time I sat in that new office, alone. Glass walls, a perfect city view, a polished nameplate on the desk. It should have felt like victory. Instead, it felt like distance. Distance from the team, distance from the work, distance from the version of me. That actually mattered. That's when it hit me. They didn't promote me to empower me. They promoted me to remove me. Because when you move someone high enough, you move them away from influence. I wasn't dangerous anymore. I wasn't close to operations. I wasn't in the room where real decisions were made. I was visible, but I was replaceable. And the hardest part? It took me months to admit it, because ego whispers, this is success. But instinct whispers, this feels wrong. And instinct is usually honest. One evening, I stayed late again. Old habit. The office was quiet, lights dim, cleaning staff moving silently in the background. I walked past the floor where I used to sit with my team. Someone else was at my old desk, laughing, leading, deciding like I once did. And for the first time, I didn't feel anger. I felt clarity. Success that disconnects you from your purpose isn't success. It's packaging. And packaging fades. The next morning, I made the hardest decision of my career. I resigned. Not dramatically, not angrily, just honestly. Because staying would have meant pretending. And I had already pretended. Long enough. Today I work on smaller projects, with smaller teams, in smaller rooms. But when I speak, my voice is heard. When I build something, my fingerprints stay on it. And when I sit down at the end of the day, I don't feel replaced, I feel present. So if you ever find yourself rising quickly, but shrinking quietly, pause, look around. Ask yourself one question. Are you being promoted or repositioned? I learned the difference the hard way. And that lesson was more valuable than any title.